Pardon?
Where were you living at the time?
Oh, I lived on a farm in Parksville, New York, in the Catskill Mountains.
With your family?
Yes, family farm.
Okay. And why did you join the service?
I was drafted, but
Okay.
I wanted to go in anyway, but I finished mechanic school, aircraft mechanic school, for 15 months, and I graduated in March, and I had so much work on the farm. Just my mother was there and my youngest brother. He was only 16, and I had to do all the work on the farm, cut the hay and everything. So I stayed long enough and I got drafted, so I couldn't enlist.
And why did you pick the branch of service that you ended up in?
Well, I was drafted and they put me in the MPs after my mechanic school, you know.
Okay.
They didn't care, they just took the whole group and put them in the MPs. And I pestered them until I got transferred with my experienced aircraft. I got transferred into the Air Force, and that was in India. A friend of mine was in the air base there, and he helped me get into the Air Force there.
Do you recall the first days of your service?
The first day,
Mm-hmm.
I went to Camp Upton for indoctrination in Long Island, and we went on a bus from Parksville, New York to Long Island. No, the induction center in Grand Central Terminal in Washington. And we got there about 10 o'clock in the morning, and I didn't get home till the next morning, 5 o'clock in the morning. We were the last ones to be interviewed or whatever, you know. And it was getting light already when I walked up the mountain to get to the house. That was how many? 12? About almost 12, 20 hours of Grand Central Terminal in New York City.
Do you remember what it felt like?
Well, I didn't know anybody, and there was so much to do, examinations of all kinds, physical and mental, and there was so much going on, you didn't have much time to think.
What about your boot camp experience?
Basic training was in Fort McClellan, Alabama. It was infantry training. And it was 6 weeks. And it was in October and November. And it was warm down there, and I wasn't used to the warm climate. And they made us wear heavy jackets, you know, and sweat.
Do you remember any of your instructors?
He was a Southerner. He was the drill sergeant. I forgot his first name, but his Sergeant Daniels. He was good. And our captain he was a Southerner too. He was very good people. Fair and very nice. They had to do what they had to do to train you.
Do you know how you got through the experience or wonder how you ever got through that experience?
I was pretty young then and physically strong, so it wasn't much trouble. Just the heat that bothered me, you know. Yeah. Hikes. We went on a overnight hike one rainy night, slept out in the wet ground, you know. And they felt sorry for us. The next day we went back home, back to the camp, the main camp.
How many were in your group that day? Do you remember?
The company was, I guess 150. Yeah.
Right. let's talk about the war experiences then. And tell me, now you mentioned you were World War II.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And India.
Yeah,
Tell me, okay.
northeastern corner of India, our air base was there. And most of the time I was there, airplane mechanic, working on the airplanes, and it was so hot, mosquitoes and all the oil dripping down from the engines, but we had to keep the airplanes flying, safely.
How many planes did you normally work on?
Just the one, a
Okay.
C-46 cargo plane. They supply supplies to China, to American forces and Chinese forces over the mountains. That was the only way they could get supplies there. It was like Berlin airlift, That was the only way they could get anything there to supply the troops there.
So they went up and over. Do you know
Yeah,
where they
over the
dropped
mountains,
supplies
yeah.
to in China?
They had to fly about 20,000 feet over the mountains.
Where were they dropping the supplies?
Let's see, Chongqing, and I forgot the other name. There was air bases all over there, and they'd have to go to certain ones,
Okay.
Yeah.
And you said your job assignment was air mechanic?
Air mechanic. I was in charge of a crew for a while, maintenance crew.
How many men?
About 6.
6.
Yeah. 6 or 8. Yeah.
Can you describe a typical day for me?
When sometime we'd work days and sometime all night long, but we'd have breakfast when we were on days, and then trudge to they used to call them revetments, where the plane was that we had to work on, through the jungle, maybe a half a mile. And our typical day was like 8 or 10 hours. Sometime on a night shift, we'd work all night long. Yeah. With the mosquitoes and bugs.
So night was not as much fun as the day?
No, and it was hot.
About how hot? Do you remember?
How hot?
Uh-huh.
Oh, it used to get like 100 degrees and humidity, about like here now, humidity and 95, 100 degrees. And if you had to work inside the airplane, it was maybe 120 degrees there.
Did you ever see any combat while you were there?
No. The Japanese almost cut all our 6 air bases. They tried to cut it all off, and we would have been trapped there, in front of the mountains, but the British had a lot of combat troops there, so they saved the day. The Japanese never got to cut the airfields off. Yeah.
And what was it, forget that, you weren't under fire. Do you remember when the British came in and protected your base? What was it like? Do you remember that?
We were far enough away. We didn't see any of it, because we were far enough away from it, but they stopped the Japanese from coming, they came through the jungles and everything, but the British had a lot of Indian troops, Gurkhas, Punjabs, so they were combat troops,
Which did you think were the most impressive?
The Gurkhas. They were from Nepal. Yeah. They were really, and the Punjabs were good too. They were all trained very good.
And can you tell me a memorable experience when you think of that situation?
Most of it was just work.
Okay.
Work long hours and full of oil with just shorts on and shoes.
And it's those shoes.
Yeah, I had those 3 years, but they weren't the ones I worked in. We had work shoes, but they were the most comfortable, and I kept them, you know. I'll have to write a chart where the shoes have been.
Okay, so those shoes are the ones that you wore the whole time.
Yeah, 3 years, 37 months. Yeah.
Shoes and shorts.
The most, I wouldn't say memorable time, but the saddest time, I was over there in India when my brother got killed here in Louisiana. The B-17 bomber crashed and all 10 of them got killed in August 1944. And I never could come here, you know, for the funeral or anything. It was too far away. Yeah.
Is there anything else that stands out in your mind?
And a month later, a cousin of mine, a first cousin, was killed in Anzio, Italy. He was an infantryman a month after my brother got killed. And you got time to write now?
Yeah, I'm.
And half of my family on my mother's side was lived in Ukraine, and we lost 3 first cousins there, infantrymen. Where they got killed or when, nobody ever knew, or whatever happened to them. They probably buried in mass graves there. With the only markers were pine trees, pine forests planted over the graves.
Now, were they Americans at the time or Ukraine?
No, they were in the Russian front,
Russian front.
part of Russia then, but they lived in Ukraine. Yeah.
Do you want to tell me a little bit about some of those photos at this point?
Oh,
Were
yeah.
there any of the men that you served with?
No, this is my youngest brother, John.
Okay.
Okay. This is my younger brother, John. He served towards the end of the war in the Philippines. Then he was in the occupation of Korea. He was in the Signal Corps. And this is my brother, Terry. He was killed in the B-17 crash in Louisiana, 1944. And my oldest,
No, go ahead.
my oldest brother, Harry, he didn't go into service, but he was a foreman in Remington Arms in Bridgeport. He made all the shells that my brother used on the airplanes and wherever else was needed. And this is myself here before I went in.
Okay.
I was a lot heavier then.
And anybody else that you served with in India?
No. This is all, it had all new people that I served with. The ones I went in, I never saw them again after I went in the Air Force. Yeah.
What about this picture on this?
This one here?
Yep.
That was basic training in Fort McClellan, Alabama, infantry training.
Do you know who's in the picture with you? It looks.
Pardon?
Just you in the picture.
Yeah, just me. Yeah.
Okay. And on any of the others? How about the others?
This one here is in India, Calcutta, India. I had that picture taken.
Yep.
This is my father,
Uh-huh.
Alex, and my brother John and I on a farm when we were little kids and our dog.
Okay.
in Parksville, New York. And where can I go? And the brother that got killed in the war is here, my father and mother.
Mm-hmm.
And this was after the war. One sister, myself, the other sister, and my brother John. This is another sister. She passed away. There's only 3 of us left out of 7.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Good.
this is my wife when she was working as a waitress.
And how about the one in the corner?
And the 3 brothers here,
Okay.
myself, John, and Harry. And this one, of course, wasn't there. And let's see what else.
It's a nice collection.
Pardon?
It's a nice collection.
Yeah.
Tell me something about this pillow cover or item you have in the background there.
Oh.
The CBI.
Oh, China, Burma, and India. That was the theater of war that I was in.
Okay. And who made that?
I bought that Indian. They were very good craftsmen.
Mm-hmm.
That was made in India. Bought it in the stores. There was stores all over. The smallest town you ever went, they had a variety, not a variety store, but they'd sell anything. Rings, everything. Yeah.
And your uniforms up top. Do you want to tell me about those?
Yeah. Let's see. This is 30 months overseas. The 5 of them. They are 6 months each. And this is 3 years or more of service there. But I was in 37 months. And that's the emblem there, CBI, same as that one there.
Okay.
And that's about it on the uniform.
Can you still wear it?
I keep mothballs in it because I found a little mothball hole. So I keep putting mothballs in the pockets.
That's terrific.
Yeah.
That's terrific.
And my Legion cap is on the top.
Okay.
That I belong to the Legion, American Legion. Post 12 here in Norwalk.
Okay. Well, let's sit down again and we'll finish up some of these questions.
Mm-hmm.
Can I get you to move a little
Oh,
closer?
that's right. Yeah, I keep forgetting.
There you go. Okay. How did you stay in touch with your family when you were in India?
I used to write letters to my family and friends, neighbors.
Okay.
I was a good letter writer. I'd write to everybody that would write back to me.
And did you have any problems getting mail?
Getting the
Getting
mail?
mail.
No.
No.
We had those little V letters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it took a while, maybe 2 weeks to get a letter there and back.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was so far, halfway around the world.
Yeah. And the postage was free. You didn't have
Yeah.
to pay for postage.
Free, yeah.
Did you ever have letters blacked out?
Once in a while, yeah.
They
I
would-
try to mention where it was, and they didn't want that.
Okay.
Yeah, so not much.
What about the
Mention
food?
Calcutta, I couldn't mention Calcutta even.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about the food? What was the food like while you were
We
there?
had our food. We had good cooks, but it was all canned.
Okay.
One of the workers in the kitchen said, "You cooks are just canned cooks." Because we had no other way to get, no refrigeration or anything. So it was all in cans. But we had good food. You can't say anything about.
What would be a typical meal that you'd like?
We didn't have eggs. We had the powdered eggs.
Okay.
which was pretty good, yeah. And we'd have beef, turkey, mostly beef, and like Thanksgiving we'd have canned turkey and stuffing and everything, you know. It fit us good.
That's
I
terrific.
can't complain. It was better than eating Indian food.
You didn't like the Indian food?
I had curried chicken that was very good though once, but the one cook we had then when we first went over there, they cooked for us, you know. But after that, we had our own cooks when they got situated. You know.
Okay.
But curried chicken was good. I don't think I ever tasted anything that good. But that was the only thing. The rest was different spices, you know.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. How about supplies? Did you have plenty of supplies while you were
Yeah.
there?
Oh, yeah. We had everything you needed. Anything we needed, it was there.
Okay. Did you ever feel pressure or stress while you were there?
Not at that young age, no. The work was just that it was hot and a lot of work, you know, maintaining airplanes. But when you're young, you can do all that, you know.
Was there any...
Others went through a lot worse than I did, you know. Terrible things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was there anything you ever had as a good luck charm?
Not really, no.
Okay.
No.
How about entertainment when people came over to entertain troops?
USO used to come every once in a while there because it was so far away. We didn't get to. Paulette Goddard came, and I don't know who else, but there are a few others. And they had fighters come over there. Henry Armstrong, lightweight champion, and he had about 4 titles. And I can't remember who else at the spur of the moment who came, but we had a few of them, actresses. Oh, and she played tennis. I forgot her name, though. She's a good tennis player. She came there. I can't remember her name, though. It'll come to me tomorrow or sometime when I'm sleeping. Yeah.
And that would have been in 1944.
45, 43. 43 to 45. Yeah.
And that's just a little bit beyond my years.
Pardon?
It's a bit beyond my years to know who the tennis players were. I was little. How did you entertain yourselves? I mean, how the men?
We had movies
Okay.
with the mosquitoes. We had stuff that outside, you know, we rubbed our mosquito, but it was good stuff. They didn't bite us. It was. I'd like to have some now because I got bit a couple days ago, real bad, you know, at night in the garden. Yeah. So movies is about all.
Okay.
You know, because it was so far out, you know.
Yeah. And you mentioned the entertainers were the ones that you just mentioned. What did you do when you went on leave? Did you get leave?
Yeah, I went on 2 leaves. I always headed for the mountains, whatever the rest camp was in the mountains in Darjeeling, India. You probably heard of Darjeeling tea. There was a good tea. They had a railroad going up to the town there from below, you know. And another time I went to, I'll let you write.
No, go ahead.
Shillong, they call it. Shillong. That was close to Burma. That was in the mountains too. And it was very nice. We had a rest camp there. So I always headed for the mountains to get away from the heat and the mosquitoes.
What were the camps like?
It was American. It was very good. We'd have our own cooks there. And they'd have cookouts sometime outside and movies. That was about all. And we'd go into town, Darjeeling, and see what was there, you know. That was pretty interesting there, Darjeeling, the town. Small gauge railroad that went up, I think it was 12,000 feet high in the mountains.
Wow.
Yeah. But the train went up and they'd have like landslides. It'd wash the tracks out. They'd have to fix it. So, yeah.
Was it beautiful?
Yeah, very nice. Oh, we could see the mountains. In the summer, you could see they'd call it Kachenjunga. It was closer than Mount Everest. Mount Everest you couldn't see, but you could see the snow on the mountains, the hottest all summer long, so you could see the snow on the mountains. I had some old pictures of the snow on the mountains. Mount Everest, it was in another area that you had to go, like a guide would take you on a horse about 5 in the morning, and you could only see the Mount Everest about an hour before the clouds covered it over, you know, and you couldn't see it. So
And do you remember any humorous or unusual pranks that the men played or that you played?
not really. They were pretty serious then, you know. We had to worry more about keeping the airplanes safe for the pilots, you know. So we didn't have much time for the pranks or anything like that.
All right, and we've talked about some of your photographs, so we're going to include those in your images. What's your favorite photograph on that page?
My mother and father.
Okay,
Yeah.
and your brother John.
And the 3 brothers and my sisters. 4 boys and 3 daughters they had. And my wife there that gave us the
Children?
4 daughters and a son. And if it wasn't for her, we wouldn't have 8 grandchildren and 1 great-grandchildren. She's the one on the top there.
Okay.
Marie, yeah. I wouldn't have this if it wasn't for her.
Wow.
And she passed away 8 years ago.
Okay. And her name was Marie? When you were in the service, what did you think about your fellow officers and soldiers? Did you like them? Did you not like them?
Officers, we didn't see too much in the Air Force. We just dealt with the sergeants, you know, that were in charge of the airplanes.
Okay.
But the officers, they've hurt my friend's feelings once. He was an MP, you know, and we were sitting, you know, and he didn't salute the officer, you know, and he got mad. He says, "What kind of an MP are you?" He says, "I'm ashamed of you that you don't salute officers." So he hurt his feelings.
Did he get in trouble
That
for
was
that?
the only time. No.
And you mentioned you did not keep a diary.
Pardon?
You did not keep
No.
a diary.
Towards the end, I kept, the last month I kept a diary. Coming home, I wrote it out. But I should have kept one. Yeah.
Did you, do you still have that diary?
It's just written down on a little pad, you know.
Okay.
Flying home and where we stopped.
Where did you stop?
Coming home, we stopped in from India, Assam, India, the province there. We stopped in Karachi, India. Then the next stop was in Abadan, Iran. The next stop was in Cairo, Egypt, and then all across North Africa to Casablanca, and we waited there a month before they, could bring us home.
Mm.
Then we went from there to McGuire Air Force Base in New Jersey. And then from there I got discharged in Westover Air Force Base in Massachusetts.
Okay.
I think it's Springfield, Massachusetts. And that's where I got discharged.
Do you remember that specific day when you were discharged?
November 14th, 1945.
Do you remember what it felt like?
I said, well, what am I going to do now? I said, first I have to get home to see my parents and family.
And then what?
Then came back home, kissed my mother. Up in Ansonia, Connecticut, they lived.
Okay.
Yeah. Can I stop now? I want to go to the bathroom.
Okay. What did you do after you came home? After you kissed your mom and went home?
I
Like the
went
first
to work
days
in a
were-
small shop,
Okay.
but then only a few months. Then my brother, my oldest brother here,
Mm-hmm.
bought a diner in Norwalk, on Main Street in Norwalk. And the three of us worked there, and his wife. So I worked there about 2.5 years. But then I missed working on airplanes.
Mm-hmm.
So I worked in Chance Vaught until they moved out to Texas. And then I went back to work in machine shops. And after that,
Mm-hmm.
I worked in Sikorsky Aircraft on helicopters. I was a lead man there.
Okay. That's a long
Then-
drive.
Huh?
That's a long drive.
Yeah, but we lived in Bridgeport then,
Ah.
so it was close. But then I went for more money, and we moved to Norwalk, and I worked in another small shop, and then I ended up in United States Surgical in a model shop there, and that's the last place I worked.
Did you ever go back to school?
No,
No.
no. I wanted a family. Yeah. And there was no... I didn't think I would have... I had no idea what I wanted other than aircraft or
Okay.
model shop working, stuff like that.
Did you have any close friends when you were in the service?
Oh, I got one I had, and I used to write to him all after the war,
Mm-hmm.
and his wife got dementia, and all of a sudden I noticed his letters, his writing wasn't the same, the way he was writing. I knew something was wrong, and then a year later, I wrote him a letter about 2 other times after that, and they never answered. They had one daughter, and I don't know, she never said anything or never wrote me or anything.
Okay.
But he lived in Pennsylvania.
Do you remember his name?
Yeah, John Ziegler. But I was very good friends with him.
Okay.
And I don't know whatever happened to him, whether he was born the same day as I was, same age. That's how we got so close,
Okay.
Yeah.
And that was in India.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then he went back to Pennsylvania, he got married there, and had one daughter.
Okay. Huh. Now, you mentioned your American Legion cap, so
Yeah.
obviously you belong to the American Legion.
Hmm.
Any other organizations?
No.
And how long have you been with the American Legion?
Oh, I'd say 7 or 8 years,
Okay.
maybe longer.
All right, let's move on a little to the years after you're working in war and get to kind of the meat of this. You mentioned that you worked on aircraft and mechanical things after the war, and that was really your career.
Yeah.
How do you think that military experience influenced your thinking about the war or military in general?
Well, I'm glad I was able to do something. I don't know how I'd feel if I didn't go in,
Okay.
because my one older brother was ahead of me, and the younger brother was after me. So,
Okay. And have you been to any, American Legion again, did you hold any activities, or were you a commander or service officer or anything in the American Legion?
no, no.
Just a good old...
I didn't. My brother's the one. He only had one daughter, and I had 4 daughters and a son, so he had more time. But he was in the VFW. He was the treasurer and the American Legion, but he seemed to spend more time there than I did.
Okay. Have you been to any reunions of men who were in India?
No. I used to get the newsletter, but they disbanded, People got old, and we used to get nice newsletters,
What was
But
the
every-
newsletter called?
Pardon?
What was the newsletter called? Do you remember the name of it?
CBI Roundup, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
And they used to give all the news, and if you wanted to write something in there, they'd print it. And the happenings. They had a lot of reunions, but my wife had a stroke like 20 years before she passed away, and I could never go to any of them.
Okay.
And they were always out west in California or Texas or someplace, so I never went to them.
Okay. And the newsletter is no longer published?
No, they just 2 years ago they ended it.
How do you think your service experience affected your life?
Well, I was kind of lazy when I was younger, but it made me more ambitious.
Okay.
And getting married and raising a family made me ambitious too. So I still try to keep, as long as I can. And let's see. But raising a family was the best thing that ever happened to me. Yeah. Because our family is, this brother had no children. This one has one daughter, and he got killed. I don't know what he would have. Yeah, so.
Is there anything you would like to add that we haven't covered? Anything you'd like to talk about or bring up? Any special memories that you've now thought of?
Not memories, but as I get older, I feel more sad, the ones that never came back. my brother and first cousins, my brother and 3 first cousins, 2 in the Russian front and 1 in Anzio, Italy. I think I told you wrote that down. Yeah.
Mhm.
So they never came home, and they lost their lives at so young.
Hmm.
And never got to raise a family or own their own house and live to be a ripe old age, you know. That's about, you know,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Well, I thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'll
Yeah.
turn this off.